Hello everybody, it's jBrereton again, here casting Sauromatia in a game called Beaver over at Something Awful Forums. This is my starting position. Looks alright to be fair. Got a plains here, which is apparently worth 82 gold, so I'm going to ping that with my scout. Scout already set up for retreat on the first turn and set way at the back, so unless there's any flyers or anything, which are completely fine. 82 is about the most you'll normally see in an early age province. I'm guessing it has some kind of gold or silver mine in it, or else it wouldn't be worth anything like that much with the population it has. Other provinces around me are forests and border mountains, so good resources there. My capital, provided it has any kind of reasonable population, and a plains and border mountains province here. Probably won't be very high population due to the border mountains, but might be worth a shot. Starting corners for Sauromatia are Scout, pretty much standard, everyone gets one, and a chieftain who I've already renamed Neil Kinnock for prophetising purposes, so let's go Prophet, and let's see who we're up against. Pretenders of the World, Rygel, Margaret Thatcher for Abysia, which is the reason I named them the way I did. They are a Greek-inspired human nation. They have chariots, medium to heavy infantry, although not the hoplites of later eras, and some flying units, plus slingers and a few mages. Early on, they're not particularly dangerous, but later, as the game goes on, they'll get increasingly high research, and that means stuff like flaming arrows on the slingers, which is very dangerous, and eventually stuff like mind hunts all over the place. Luckily I have my own astral mages, so I'm not particularly vulnerable to that, but we'll see what happens. My own nation, Sauromatia, and Nelly Furtado, the Man-Eater. Kind of gone over that a little bit already, but may have a little more to say. Infinite Bong Rips is the pretender for Calum. Calum is a flying nation. They have quite good troops that, as I said, all fly, so they're very strategically mobile. Vulnerable to quick routes, but their routes are generally quite painless because all of their troops go, and pretty much as soon as they retreat, they're all gone. And they are usually storm flying as well, so they can cast storm and still have the same battlefield mobility, while making their mages a lot more powerful in terms of casting things like Thunderstrike, which are a real threat with Calum, because they have native A2 W1 mages. So there's some storm power after some cast storm. They're all Air 3, pretty easy to keep casting Thunderstrike for a couple of turns after that. Very dangerous in the mid game. Can fall off later, but they usually hold their own pretty well. Pangaea is a nation of satyrs, kind of stealthy troops. They have commanders that can seduce, which is always threatening, because it's a assassination type attack that can also just outright steal commanders. They're particularly dangerous in assassinations because their seducers have nature magic, so they can cast a spell called Swarm. Pretty much anyone dies at that point because the targeting AI just gets confused. You can't cast spells in close combat unless you've got particular traits, and usually just get beaten down. So they're pretty dangerous on a strategic level because of that. And their troops are actually quite powerful. They have a couple of attacks in certain circumstances, and they have quite high strength and magic resist. Gath here is a nation of, I guess, kind of worm beings. I don't think they're particularly strong, but will probably be proven quite badly wrong. Their troops are very good at sieges, so you really have to take care to not lose them in capital or really any forted provinces, or else you can just get brought down very quickly. That is really the one main strength of the nation. They also have good earth magic, but their troops aren't really that good, so they're not all that much to buff. On the other hand, they do have good earthquake access, and as Sauromatia, I don't have innate access to mass flight, so a little bit risky in that respect. But overall, I'd say medium rank threat. Vanheim, underhand solo lives. Vanheim is very dangerous early on. They have arguably the best recruitable sacred in the game, called a Vanarus. Vanheim have 2 relatively strong attacks. They berserk when they get hit, and as well as that, they're almost always given a Water 9 Blast. Water 9 Blast basically just means every other turn they get 2 attacks, and they always get 2 attacks on the first turn. So in close combat you have like 4 high strength attacks to deal with, and they're very hard to hit because they have high defense from Water Blasts. Plus they have Glamour, so if you don't hit with a missile weapon first, they will have a innate 50% miss chance once, but once is all they really need. The mages are quite strong Earth mages, air mages rather. They have an Earth mage in their capital who can forge very well, and they have a bit of blood magic, which is very expensive compared to most nations, but at the same time does give them a kind of potential to get things like storm demons, which are very powerful. Helheim, quite similar to Vanheim, but with a higher focus on death magic, and they don't have sailing, unlike Vanheim. Although in a map like this, it's less useful than it might otherwise be. The Sacred for Vanheim is also a bit less scary. It's called a Hell Healing. They're very, very strong, but they also cost 70 gold each. So they're never going to get all that many, especially since even their basic commanders cost in the order of about 150 gold, I think it's 165. So while they're powerful, they tend to operate in pretty small groups, and if you've got relatively good evocation or even alteration magic, or just massed range weapons, you can actually deal with that quite easily. Lanka is a monkey nation that also dabbles in demonology. They have good kind of summonables from blood. They have all kinds of basic troops. The most standard one you'll see is some guy called Rygel. They get a whole bunch of them for not that much in terms of blood slaves, and they're very tanky, so you often see them given a Blood 9 Blast, which gives them the damage reflection as well as increased power in close combat with extra strength. If they go Nature 9, Blood 9, their scales will be complete trash, but their sacreds don't really rely on money to function, so at that point they become really, really difficult to fight, because they have about 4 HP regen per turn, and they reflect damage, and it's all a bit of a disaster. Luckily I do have anti-magic available to me, so the reflection is possible to counter through MR, and luckily I can get decent MR. They also have very good summonable commanders, like the Dakini. Dakini are famously good. They are blood and air mages, very powerful. They're also good thugs because they fly, and they have innate damage reflection even without bloodline blasts. Plus you don't really need to give them all that much gear for them to just do wonders on low PD, because they have lifesteal on their weapon. And since they're usually pretty much a lot better than whatever they're fighting, they'll just keep on kind of recharging themselves in battle, and so they're, yeah, as I said, very difficult to deal with, except with specific anti-demon counters. Luckily I have quite good blood magic, so you can kill demons that way, plus also death magic, and you can't suck life out of undead targets normally, at least, so in that respect should be okay. Yomi is another demon nation. They are almost completely revolve around their demon troops. They're quite powerful, but they're very gold intensive, and the nation actually works best with turmoil and high unrest, so they're in a kind of awkward place. On the positive side for them, their units get 2 forms, one of which is ethereal, so they have very safe expansion with units like Akaoni, who kind of fling all kinds of flaming projectiles from the underworld at people. On the negative side, their commanders are actually quite vulnerable, and their useful commanders are called demon generals, and they're pretty expensive, although they are very good at what they do. And since they only have death 1, they are pretty easy targets for assassination, I'd say, for example Pangaea. a swarm will straight up defeat demon generals if the mage that's sent to attack is properly scripted. So you just go swarm, and then any kind of terror inflicting stuff like panic or even tangle vines, just to keep the bugs kind of chipping away at them for long enough. On the other hand, they are very good late, because they have excellent mages called Dione, who are very hard to kill through means like falling rocks, or rain of stones, sorry, due to their big amounts of health. And they have very strong fire, death and earth magic, all of which are very good on the battlefield. Next nation is Berytos. Berytos is a human nation. They have pretty good income. It's given a 10% bonus on all coasts. There are long strips of coast here, but you can assume that at least a couple of people will be fighting over them, just because Vanheim has sailing, so it gets much better strategic mobility on coast. I mean, Pangaea and Kalem especially will fight anywhere. You may see Rygel on the coast, you may not. The thing about Rygel is hard to get out of the water, but I'll talk about that in a second. Berytos, as well as having decent income, also has relatively cheap units, although they are only humans, so they are quite easy to rush, and they eventually transition into blood summons, the same way as, for example, Hinnom, which is a kind of side nation to Berytos would. I'd say they're a pretty prime rush target because of the fact they blood sacrifice, so their dominion spreads well. They have pretty weak starting units, apart from their elephants, but most nations have ways to deal with elephants. And you want to knock them out as quickly as possible. Plus, in addition to that, their forts take a little bit longer than everyone else's to build, because they only get fortresses and castles, whereas most of us, in fact I think all of us, get access to palisades. In the case of Yomi, they only get palisades, same is true for Pan. But it does mean that if they stick around and manage to fort up on a throne, for example, with a castle, castles fully upgraded are an absolute bitch to break, so I would guess they will be taken out quite early if people wise up. Next nation is Zabulba. Zabulba is a nation of bats. They have the same Mesoamerican blood stuff going on as Mictlan. They're arguably even better at it than Mictlan, because they have much better blood hunting capabilities. And they are a really serious threat. Their troops are quite good. They have very massable chaff at 1 gold each, which is pretty crazy when you think about it. And they fly, so nearly nowhere is safe from them. In addition to that, they have extra recruitment in, I believe, caves, certainly in forests. They can get there quite resource-like troops. I think they only cost 2 resources for a unit with a light lance, which, if they are flying, it actually poses quite a big threat to nearly anything, because the amount of ground they cover in a single turn is added in some form or other. I think you get a third of the distance added to the damage on your first strike, which is enough to take out pretty much anything as long as it hits. For example, Agathan troops have renownedly low defense, so if Zabulba attacks into them, they will probably hold an attack for the Agathan troops to get broken up a bit, smash into them, take out about half the troops, and then Agatha's in a really difficult position because it will start routing. In addition to that, Agatha is quite bad against Zabulba just because all of Zabulba's troops can fly. So Earthquake and so on doesn't really affect them in the same way as it would, for example, me or Arcus Skephalae, or even really Helheim. Vanheim has much easier access to mass flight than Helheim, so their troops will eventually all fly. Helheim's may or may not. And yeah, Zabulba is a really genuinely big threat. The later it goes, they just keep on getting stronger as well, because the more provinces they have, the more they can blood hunt, and so the more summons they can get, and they have some pretty good summons. Queen Elizabeth is the leader for Rylliet. EA Rylliet is basically a joke. Their troops are really bad. They can only lead them out of the sea with very specific units, and their best mages cannot be taken out of the water unless you actually build your pretender to do it. That's because they don't have any body slots on their aboleths. Aboleths are like kind of eel creatures, and so they can't use a cheaper shambler skin or robe of the sea, which you would find on, for example, bishop fish that everyone can summon. And so they're in a really tight spot because the nation will have at most one water and a air mage, which is going to be their pretender, who I'm guessing is a polypal queen just by the name. But we'll see. Who knows? Maybe they'll pose a bigger threat than otherwise thought. They did get changed in the last patch, or the one before it at least, to have a on-land troop called, I think, an Androleth, which is a mine blaster. It costs 50 gold and I think 16 resources, and they're okay, but at the same time they have a 5-year lifespan, so anyone with death magic can just spam decay at them, and they will get ruined, basically. And as well as that, they just cost too much, and their troops, that's pretty much all they get on land, so they can just get chucked out, and that's only on coastal provinces. So in a Thrones game like this, they're pretty precarious. I'm not entirely sure why they picked them, but who knows, maybe they've got an interesting strat. Anyway, getting back to my own nation. In terms of recruitment, this turn I am recruiting a spirit guide. Often I'll recruit a soothsayer, but I really want the guaranteed magic. Soothsayers, if I get one that doesn't have the 90% astral on the first turn, I'm going to be a bit wound up by that. And then Sauromatia archers, got 11 because I've got 56 resources, 1 for the spirit guide, 55 for the Sauromatia archers. Depending on what's in the province next to me, I may attack with or without them. If I attack without them, then turn after I'll get some lancers or Sauronation Amazons to act as kind of tanks for them, and then I'll attack whatever province looks easiest. It'll probably end up being Valador or Darkwoods. This throne could be anything, could be level 2 or 3, so I don't really want to go into that. Already renamed my prophet, Neil Kinnock, and looking at the mercenaries, I already bid up Obscuro the Hidden Master. Obscuro the Hidden Master is an A2 mage. I don't natively get A2, so it'd be nice to have him. If I do get him, I'll keep him for literally as long as I possibly can, unless I'm feeling spiteful, I will stick a Blood Slave collar on him, and then he won't be able to cast magic anymore, and he'll just sit around being sad. Anyway, that was my first turn. I hope this was an interesting watch.